Hola, ¿qué tal amigos de Nación Boxeo? Su amigo Luis Velarde aquí con ustedes en nuestro primer episodio del año, episodio número 58. Y hoy tenemos un invitado de lujo, de primera, la verdad, Dan Canobbio, periodista de Estados Unidos. También su padre fue el creador de Compubox, todos esos porcentajes que nos dan las peleas de boxeo que vemos siempre en la pantalla al final. Un hombre que la verdad lleva el boxeo en la sangre. Siempre ha estado rodeado de boxeo y uno de los comentaristas más importantes el día de hoy en Estados Unidos. Dan, welcome to Nación Boxeo. This is our 58th episode, so we've been around for about a year and a half. Nice to have you here, Dan. Like I was telling our viewers, you pretty much have boxing in your blood. Your father created CompuBox. So how does it feel to, have grown up around boxing? Is there any apart from having that influence from your dad, is there like any specific fighter, specific moment in boxing that kind of got you into it?
First off, thank you for having me on the show. It's pretty cool to be broadcasting from Panama and Nicaragua. I love the fact that boxing is an international sport, so it's great to hear from fans all across the globe. And yeah, I've been lucky, very, very lucky. Very fortunate to grow up in the sport, be around it at a very young age. 3 years old, I was in the arms of Mike Tyson 5 days after he lost to Buster Douglas. He came over to the HBO studio, and I actually have the picture right here. And he came over to the HBO studio, and he was doing some type of broadcast to talk about the fight. And that's me. You can see it right there.
Yeah, I saw your interview with Mike. You showed him the picture. He was like, he couldn't believe it.
He freaked out. It was so cool. But I don't remember that moment. My first memories of boxing is more like, when I was about 7 or 8 or 9, Arturo Gatti, going to his fights in Atlantic City, East Coast fighters. From there, a lot of HBO. Roy Jones really became popular when I was about 10. And my dad obviously would go to the fights at HBO, and he would bring us sometimes, whether it was in Florida. So a lot of Agati, Roy Jones, and then Miguel Cotto, because Cotto always fought at the Garden. I'm from New York. So like as a teenager, bringing my friends to, those fights the night before the Puerto Rican Day Parade. And then obviously, I'm in my 20s then, and then I'm full bore, obsessed with the sport. And then started working for CompuBox myself in 2014. So it's been quite a long journey. Behind the scenes stuff is so cool. Like I was telling another interview, like on my 8th birthday, my dad was away at a fight for HBO. This is when George Foreman was working for HBO. And I got a phone call, and it's George Foreman. And he's like, "Happy birthday, kid. Happy birthday. Oh, your dad tells me you're doing this, that, and the other." And it was, stuff like that, little things like that. Like looking back now that I'm an adult, it's like pretty damn cool. And I hope when I have kids, I'll be able to, give them some thrills too.
Le preguntábamos a Dan qué pensaba, qué fue, a pesar de venir de una familia boxística, si había algún momento, algún boxeador que lo habían hecho amar más el boxeo, y evidentemente tiene muchas anécdotas. Nos cuenta que a los 3 días de haber nacido, a los meses de haber nacido, prácticamente estuvo en los brazos de Mike Tyson. George Foreman lo llamó para felicitarlo en su cumpleaños. Se iba con su papá a todas las peleas en Nueva York en el Madison Square Garden. Nos habla que vio a Arturo Gatti, un peleador que todos conocemos, Miguel Cotto, de los peleadores más recientes que le gustan a Dan. Así que tiene muchas experiencias detrás de la cámara, ¿no? Que a lo mejor no todos los periodistas o comentaristas de boxeo tienen la oportunidad de vivir, ¿no? Así que muy interesante. Ahí nos mostró la foto también, the picture with Mike Tyson, así que muy interesante.
That's expensive right there. That's valuable. A picture with Mike Tyson.
I know. I actually lost it for a while, and then I got it back. It's got a crease.
You should put it on your wall,
I have it blown up. I have it blown up. My dad has it in his office.
Okay.
And this is the actual real from the film. Like this thing, now that I have it in my grasp, I'm never going to let go of it. I'm going to sleep with it tonight.
For sure. So, Dan, primero que todo, un gusto saludarte y qué bueno que estés acá de invitado de Nación Boxeo. Yo te quiero preguntar cómo empezó. Veo que tienes un podcast muy exitoso, que has estado con las más grandes estrellas del boxeo, has tenido de invitado. ¿Cómo empezó la idea de este podcast? So basically then I see that you have a great podcast there, the Inside Boxing Podcast is called. You have been in there with the greatest, great champions you have had as guests. You had Ryan Garcia, you had Ray Leonard. Of course, we know Leonard fighting Duran 3 times.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so,
man.
How did this idea started of, creating the podcast?
Good question. So like I said, I was always behind the scenes, whether I was working with CompuBox, I always had a love for the sport, but I had other loves too. We were just talking off air, about baseball. I love baseball. I love boxing, number one. Baseball is like 1A. And so I always wanted to pursue a career in baseball media. So I had an internship at MLB Network in New Jersey, kind of working behind the scenes with producers and the talent there. And then from there, I did some other stuff, MLB.com. I did some radio, but I always loved boxing. I always feel like, oh, man, I know the sport inside and out, and I can probably get ahead quicker by, doing a boxing show because, it's a niche sport. It's not the, most popular sport. So I feel like I can get ahead quick. I have a lot of contacts. I know the sport inside and out. So it's actually funny. Today I just recorded my 150th episode. And I went back and found my first episode, which was hilarious, just considering that I was not very good on camera. And I've gotten a lot better. So I kind of learned on the job. My first show was the Monday following Triple G Golovkin #1. Jim Lampley came on and Deontay Wilder called in. So I was like, I knew I can get the guests. I've just just kept doing it. And like you said, last week with Sugar Ray Leonard and getting Ryan Garcia on. So it's a thrill.
So would you be able to give us some tips for us that we are beginning this, podcast thing?
Absolutely, man. Be consistent. Do it every single week, even if you don't want to, if there's nothing going on. Always same week, same time. Be consistent with your viewers. Always give it everything you have too. Like I take a lot of time. So a lot of people think it's like, oh wow, you can, it's really easy, right? You just get on there and talk. No. I prepare all week long. It's like a process. I start preparing the Sunday after a big fight. I put together my thoughts, put together my notes, write them down, and I start thinking about a guest, and I start thinking about what I want to talk about. Practice. Like, just give it everything you have, and just be consistent. And if you guys are obviously passionate about boxing, that will always come through to your listeners if you're passionate. If you start faking it, if you start just going through the motions, the listeners will pick up on it. And boxing fans are pretty hardcore. They want you to know every little thing. You make one mistake, you kind of lose credibility. But that's what I would give. That would be my advice to anyone starting out in the podcast world is just be consistent and be passionate.
Okay, really appreciate it, Dan. So, básicamente le preguntábamos a Dan cómo empezó esta idea del podcast que tiene, que es un podcast exitoso con varios invitados importantes, y él dice que básicamente el boxeo es su pasión. Él empezó a trabajar en diferentes televisoras como HBO, incluso trabajó para MLB Network, la compañía de béisbol, donde está la liga de béisbol y demás, pero que entre el béisbol y el boxeo, su mayor pasión siempre fue el boxeo, y por eso que a base de pasión, y aparte que como el papá y Compubox, él está relacionado al deporte, obviamente tenía los contactos, y se le hacía más fácil desarrollarse en un podcast de boxeo. Ha tenido muy grandes invitados, y por eso siguió el camino de crear lo que es el podcast, y de verdad que ha sido muy exitoso. Inside Boxing Podcast, right? Es el nombre del podcast. Y bueno, también le pregunté si, ya que nosotros estamos empezando acá en el tema del podcast, ¿qué consejo nos podría dar para nosotros que estamos empezando? Y básicamente nos dice que es la consistencia, querer estar todas las semanas ahí con la información y con contenido, y la pasión, ¿no? Que la consistencia es algo importante para estos temas del podcast y demás.
Ok, perfecto. Dan, hablando un poco más ya de lo que es el boxeo actual, sabemos, bueno, yo te sigo en redes sociales, sé que eres un fanático muy grande de Román el Chocolatito González, sé que es uno de tus boxeadores favoritos. Como bien sabes, yo estoy en tierras nicaragüenses, ¿no? Tierra de Román el Chocolatito González. Este fin de semana nos ofreció otra gran actuación. Para mí, la verdad, una de esas actuaciones de antaño por la que vamos a recordar por mucho tiempo, ante un boxeador muy, muy peligroso, y sigue aumentando su legado. ¿Cuál fue tu opinión de la actuación de Román el Chocolatito González este fin de semana? Dan, I follow you on Twitter, from a while back. I know you're a big Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez fan, as we all are. I think it's really complicated not to be a Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez fan. He just fought this weekend. Last Saturday, he fought Ray Martínez, the champion at 112s for the WBC. A very complicated fight, a fight that he took pretty much last minute. Hard hitter. But in my opinion, I think he gave us another one of those Roman Gonzalez performances where he just always never fails to surprise us. What was your thoughts on his fight this weekend?
Mucho golpes, my friends. Mucho golpes. He threw a lot of punches, but the thing that I would take from this fight and was early on, I was impressed with Ray Martinez's just spunk. I knew he was going to be energetic. I knew he was going to throw a lot of punches, and he was tagging Chocolatito early on. He was tagging Gonzalez, and I was like, "Oh wow, it's going to be a tough fight for Roman." And but then it turned into man versus boy, and that's the most beautiful thing about Gonzalez when he's in the ring is that he doesn't panic. He's just always composed. Like he has his plan and he trusts his skills. And by the third or fourth round, the fight completely swung into his favor, Roman Gonzalez's favor. With just blistering combinations, great defense, parrying with the punches. And what I found very interesting is that obviously we know Roman Gonzalez as this volume puncher. He has multiple CompuBox records, but in this fight, he threw 1,076 punches, which for any fighter would be a career high. But for Roman Gonzalez, it was his lowest total in 10 years since the first Estrada fight. So I was like, wow, he lowered his volume, but he raised his accuracy. His power punch accuracy was 51%, which is the sixth highest in his career. So I'm thinking, is this going to be like the new Roman Gonzalez where he throws 1,000 punches, maybe 900 to 1,000 punches a fight, which is lower for his average, but he's just more economical. He's more precise, kind of like how Pacquiao was. I tweeted this out. Pacquiao was the same way for maybe his last 10 fights. He didn't throw 70 punches around. He threw 45 punches around, but he was very accurate, as we saw him knock off Keith Thurman, Adrian Broner, up and down the list in the twilight of his career. So I was really impressed with Gonzalez's composure as usual, and also impressed with his a little more selectiveness.
Okay, thank you very much. Dan nos dice que al principio sí le pareció que Rey Martínez empezó conectando bien al Chocolatito. Parecía que podía ser una pelea complicada para el Chocolatito. Después Román González hace los ajustes y como Dan lo pone, se volvió una pelea entre hombre contra niño, ¿no? Donde prácticamente Román González dominó a placer a Rey Martínez, y también nos da unas estadísticas importantes. En esta pelea Chocolatito González no tiró tantos golpes como suele tirar. Aún así, sin tirar una cantidad tan alta para el Chocolatito, sí es una cantidad alta en relación a los demás peleadores. Entonces es un peleador que sigue tirando muchos golpes, y no solamente eso, fue mucho más efectivo con sus golpes. Capaz no tiró la cantidad de golpes que estamos acostumbrados a verlo tirar, pero fue muchísimo más efectivo Román González, que por cierto nos comenta Dan que tiene uno que otro récord en CompuBox por la cantidad de golpes que tira. Miguel?
Yeah, talking about that fight, I mean, I love that fight. And something is, you can land a punch. It was scary how clean the punches were landing from Chocolatito. Just clean. And the toughness that Martínez has is also something, to calls my attention. He took a lot of punishment, a lot of punches. At times, I thought, they were going to stop the fight. But of course, we know, vamos con todo menos conmigo. They were not going to stop that fight, It was really impressive. Yeah, he's really
very tough. I don't. His game plan wasn't great,
right?
But you cannot knock his bravery. You can't knock
the last couple of rounds were a bit complicated to watch for me. I really did think he was taking a beating. I was like, this guy's, yeah.
But then in the 12th round, he landed a lot of clean shots, and he went for broke. I mean, you got to respect it. You have to, his game plan was bad. It wasn't good, and he came in overweight, and he was already saying he wants a rematch, and this time he'll train more, train harder. That part I don't understand. 6 weeks is plenty of time, but you cannot say that he wasn't brave, and you cannot say that he definitely did himself well that night. A good account, and maybe go back to 112 and dominate down there, because and also you're fighting an all-time great. Like, yeah, you look
nothing to lose.
decent.
Legend.
You look decent. You know, legend. You look decent, but you're in there with like one of the best to ever do it. So of course, you know, like you're gonna not look great, or you're gonna come out with the loss.
And also, I've heard some people complaining that fight should have been stopped. But I mean, and Martínez was coming back. He was throwing punches back. You know, there were times like Chocolatito was landing combinations, and he was like about to stop it, but then he came back and threw a punch. So you cannot stop a fight when the guy who is, you know, receiving the beating, he's giving punches back. So, you know, he was also active.
Do you guys think that? I mean, he had one punch knockout power a little earlier in his career. Gonzalez. He's such a nice guy. Do you think like sometimes he lets up on the gas? Like Pacquiao, I know he did that. Pacquiao, remember that stretch where Pacquiao didn't have any knockouts?
Yeah.
It was because he didn't have that killer instinct anymore. I think he does, but like a part of me is like, maybe like he holds back a little bit because he's such a great person.
It's always a possibility. I mean, you know,
it's hard to prove.
Even after he knocks, you know, when he knocked out Khalidia fight, it's incredible to see a guy not celebrating after everything that he had been through prior to the Khalidia fight, right? And, you know, actually going over there and just like, hey, are you okay? You know, that I would say he's a nice guy. I would say
nice guy. He is a very nice guy, and he learned that from his hero, Alexis Aguero.
I see it exactly.
So he did the same thing, and he would never celebrate. Very rarely. I mean, like Chocolatito celebrating is him. He goes over to his corner, he kneels, he prays. You know, he looks up, thanks the Lord, and that's it. Like he's never gonna jump on the ropes and do something demonstrative. He's just like the model boxer. I mean, he's like such a throwback. It's unbelievable. We're very, very lucky that, you know, he has a few more fights left.
Dan, hablando ahora de Alexis Arguello, de grandes leyendas, Román González, que es una leyenda activa, yo te quería preguntar si tú consideras al Chocolatito en este momento ya de cerca del nivel, o se puede considerar igual de grande que un Roberto Durán, que un Canelo Alvarez, que un Julio César Chávez. So basically then, asking you now that we're talking about Chocolatito, all the history he's been making, you know, world champion in 4 different weight classes. Would you consider Chocolatito already at the level of Roberto Duran or Julio César Chávez, Canelo Alvarez, or you're of those that just like to wait for him to retire and then, you know, see what's his level?
But he's got it, man. He's just what, like you said, four divisions. He's got records in almost every division. He's got wins, like so many big wins of, you know, before he even came on the scene. When I say came on the scene, when he showed up on HBO, where then everyone was like, whoa, who is this guy? When he's fighting on Golovkin's cards, you know, but the hardcores, you know, the Dougie Fishers, the Cliff Rolls, the guys from, you know, Ring Magazine, they were on this guy from 2008 on, when he was beating everyone in his division. And not just beating him, just dominating them. And then he goes on and moves up to 115, and that's big for him. He's not a big guy. He goes up to 115, and he has great success there. 112 has great success. 115 has great success. He's the best superfly right now. And it's funny because he doesn't have a belt. Because
that's so weird. I forget that sometimes.
I was going to ask you this question. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to go ahead and ask this. Who you had winning that third fight with? I mean, in the rematch with Estrada.
I thought Gonzalez did enough to win. He landed more punches. He threw more punches. Every round was close. I mean, it was a very close fight. You know, there wasn't many moments where there was like a momentum swing where one guy was visibly hurting the other. But when it gets to that, then I like to look at the stats. I mean, the stats do not dictate who loses a fight. The judges don't see them. But if it's going to be that close, I'm going to take a look. Who landed more punches every round? I mean, who threw more punches every round? Who was more accurate? And that was Roman Gonzalez.
Definitely. Yeah, I thought the same. I think he won that fight, and maybe I can watch that fight 10 times again. The 10 times I'm going to have Chocolatito winning. Maybe it was.
You know what's crazy? He should be undefeated. He could be undefeated right
now. I say the same thing because the first fight he had with Rosenstein, he won that fight. Like,
he got robbed.
I was there too. I was there ringside, man. It was the most brutal fight. One of the most brutal fights I've ever seen ringside. Like I say, it's up there. People ask me all the time, what's the most brutal fight you've ever seen ringside? And Triple G Derevyanchenko is one of the most brutal fights I've seen ringside. And Gonzalez Sorong Vasad won. Just a bloody affair. I rewatched it last week, and I still think Gonzalez won, but another close one. I mean, when these guys are throwing that many punches at the same time, it's hard to differentiate. But if he wins that fight, there probably isn't a rematch. He doesn't get knocked out. But then it's hard to play that game because he may have lost in a fight after that. But you can make the case that he should be like 54-0. Or 55-0. I think he has 2 losses technically.
Yeah, I also believe he should be undefeated because he won that fight, and there was no case for the second fight. But it happens, and it is boxing, right?
Yeah.
What can we do? So, le preguntaba a Dan si él consideraba al Chocolate de allá de la talla de un Roberto Durán, de un Canelo Álvarez, de un Julio César Chávez, y él dice que sí, definitivamente. Chocolatito ha sido coronado en 4 diferentes categorías, incluso en la 115, que es una división donde él ya se ve chico, y aún así le ha ganado a lo mejor, ahorita al Rey Martínez, al Gallo Estrada, así que definitivamente Dan considera al Chocolate como ya uno de los más grandes de la historia, por lo menos en Latinoamérica, junto a Julio César Chávez y Roberto Durán.
Ok, Dan, hoy el día el boxeo vive momentos muy buenos. Hay personas que les gusta decir que el boxeo está muerto, que el boxeo pasa por un mal momento, que los boxeadores ahora no son como los de antes. Yo no estoy de acuerdo con eso. Yo pienso que el boxeo pasa por un gran momento. Tenemos las 115 libras, las 135 libras. Creo que hay varios pesos donde hay mucho talento. ¿Qué división para ti es la que más te llama la atención en términos generales? Dan, a lot of people nowadays like to say that boxing is dead. That fighters aren't the way they used to be, that, boxing just isn't as good as it was before. I don't agree with that. I actually do believe that we are living through some boxing times that I would consider, very, very positive, very good. I think we have talents at a lot of weights. We think about 135 pounds. We have a lot of young talent there. Then you think about 115, we just talked about Chocolatito, Gallo Estrada, and there's various weight classes where I think we have a lot of talent. Which of these weight classes would you say that catches your eye the most?
Well, first off, I agree with your sentiment that boxing is very far from dead. Just look at this past weekend. It was 10,000 plus in Fresno. There was 10,000 plus in San Diego. There's so much young talent. Not only that, it's never been a better time for a fan to be able to watch fights. I mean, you can stream cards now legally. They're good, clean, like whether it's DAZN, whether it's ESPN Plus. I mean, we're living in a golden era of being able to watch fights legally. But so I'll just say that boxing is very much alive and well. I'm sorry, the second part of your question was what?
Oh, that we have we have various weight classes where we have a lot of talent, 115, 105 with the 4 kings. I don't really agree with that denomination, but
the 4 queens.
Out of all these great weight classes that we have now, which one kind of catches your eye the most?
So obviously, like heavyweight, 147 are the 2 always divisions everyone, or middleweight, or the divisions that everyone's historically have been the better ones. But middleweight's pretty cleared out once Canelo left. 147, these guys are good, but they're all getting on the north side of 30, and not all of them have fought each other. Spence still hasn't fought Crawford yet, but there's some good guys coming up, whether it's Boots Ennis, whether it's Virgil Ortiz, and then 135 is just loaded. Gervonta Davis, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, all at 135. George Kambosos. Then you go down to 130. You got Stevenson and Valdez about to fight on April 30th. And then you go to 140, which was the focal point of my show this week. It's like there's not a lot of big names at 140 because, when Josh Taylor is going to leave, right, he's going to move up. So there aren't a lot of big names at 140, but there's a lot of even matchups. It's like, I think it's ripe for the taking.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I'm saying like Cepeda, Jose Ramirez. There's a lot of them.
Cepeda, Ramirez, Barbosa, Subriel Matias, Teofimo Lopez.
What about you got also Montana Love, which is a good fighter.
Montana Love,
is a good fighter. Regis Prograis as well.
Regis Prograis. It's like none of these guys these guys aren't like pound for pound level, but they're damn good, and sometimes that makes for a fun division. Same thing at 154 pounds, where it's been a division that's had a lot of the belts have changed hands. Charlo tried to become undisputed, but I thought he lost to Brian Castano, and they're going to run it back in May. But 154 is the same way as 140, I feel like, where it's like there isn't just like one dominant guy. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of good guys like, Sebastian Fundora, there's Erickson Lubin, Tim Zhu. they're all gunning for Charlo and Castano. So,
Right.
like I said, like just right there answers the question of every division's interesting right now. Go right up to heavyweight. You know, even 175 right now is interesting because Canelo's in it. 168 is interesting because Canelo's in it. Middleweight, not so much. 154, 147. It's great time. Great time to be a boxing fan.
Great time.
And you know what about the super lightweight division? Something that happens always: the people from the fighters from lightweight, they go to super lightweight because Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and now Teofimo Lopez, they are going up. They will go eventually to super lightweight because they are young and obviously they are going to grow up, right? Their bodies get bigger.
Yeah.
So
Ryan Garcia is 5'11". I've interviewed him in person. He's a big guy. Like he big for the weight. He's not going to stay 135 for long. I can see him at 147. You know, Teofimo's not really tall, but he's stout. Like I can see him at 147.
I think we'll have Shakur at 135 soon too, because he's going to naturally go up in weight. Shakur Stevenson,
another guy that
he'll soon be at 135. I'm sure.
Even higher than that. I know they like to go one division at a time, but you don't have to. I can see him jumping up because he has.
Definitely.
Look at his shoulders. Big guy. When he fought Jamel Herring, I was like, damn, that is a massive 130 pounder. And he's so good. I think he's on another level, Shakur Stevenson.
Definitely all those guys from sorry, Luis. Definitely all those guys from lightweight will go to super lightweight. The only guy that I will say like maybe it's a little bit too small to go to 140, I'll say Lomachenko because he's not even a lightweight and he's beating everybody at lightweight. So, but everybody will go eventually up.
Yeah, Lomachenko's tough because he's getting a little bit older in age, so it's harder to make the weight. But he's too small for 140. It's kind of like no man's land. So. Yeah, I still think he has a few more fights at 135. Obviously, he's gonna probably.
Yeah, I don't think he can go. I think if Lomachenko is gonna do something, I don't think it's going up to 140. I think at 135 is where his weight.
He's pushing it at 135. Yeah. I think.
Well,
same thing with Tank Davis. Like he's a small guy. Like him at 140, he's gonna constantly be out. Undersized at 140, but he's got such good punching power.
I got my opinion on Davis, but
I don't want to even talk about him. It's just like. That's one thing I don't like talking about anymore is Gervonta Davis because it's just delusional. His fans are I don't understand. His supporters, it just doesn't make sense. Like he's like, how can you support a guy that's 27 and his best fight is Leo Santa Cruz with a featherweight or Pedraza, who, as we see over time, isn't it's not that big of a win. And now he's fighting Rolly Romero. I mean, he can make his money, it's fine, but eventually he's gonna have to fight someone.
Sí, bueno, le preguntaba a Dan nada más generalmente qué pensaba sobre los pesos hoy en día. Hay mucho talento en los pesos de boxeo. Concordamos que el boxeo no está muerto, ya que mucha gente comentábamos eso. El boxeo, hay buenas existencias, hay bastantes ganancias en el boxeo hoy en día. Y prácticamente nos comenta que en todos los pesos hay mucho talento, quitando de repente las 160, las 200 libras, que es el peso crucero. Pero la verdad que concordamos que de repente las 135 libras es el peso donde nos gustaría ver pelear a los Gervonta Davis, a los Ryan Garcia, a todos estos boxeadores que en realidad están ahí, pero no se enfrentan entre sí. Miguel.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Before, antes de dejarlo del Chocolatito, te tengo una pregunta más, Dan. ¿Tú piensas que el Chocolatito tiene suficiente para ir a la 118 o ya es demasiado? Then, before going to the next theme about this, my last question about Chocolatito, do you believe he has enough to go to the 118 division, or that's too much for him?
I think it's too much.
Right?
I want to see it because I love these like big fights, and I love the idea of him getting his highest payday. But in a way, he's a beast. In a way, he's a monster. He's a monster. They call him that for a reason. He's just much bigger than him. Even Donaire would be interesting, but it wouldn't. I don't think a Donaire fight would make him any much more money than it would a third Estrada fight or a third Rungvisai fight. They just got to pony up money. Like I think Eddie Hearn is not cheap, so there's a lot of interest in Chocolatito now. I could just tell from I know Twitter's not the best way, but like when I tweet about Chocolatito, like people flock to it, just like almost the same way as like the top guys today. He is a legitimate star in boxing today. People really appreciate him. There's a lot of people that don't like the lighter weights, but I think he could make a pretty good payday fighting Estrada for a third time. Pretty good payday fighting Rungvisai. It won't be as much as he'll make to fight in a way though. If he goes over to Japan and they sell that place out, and he'll make the most money. Ioka, he'll make the most money by far. He might make in one night what he's made in the last 10 years.
He's been begging for that $1 million for so long. It's crazy.
He deserves like $5-10 million fight. Yeah. He deserves it more than there's no one in boxing that deserves it more than him. But that comes with a price. Literally, I mean, it comes with a price of possibly getting beat up, and we don't want to see that, but we want to see him. That's the brutalness of the sport.
And Dan, also a guy that I'm hyped about. I mean, I still want to see him against another name. Jesse Rodriguez, the guy that fought Carlos Cuadras. He's really good. I was impressed. I gotta be honest. I didn't know that much of the guy, but he's
very, very good. He's very good. I don't think Matchroom's gonna rush him into a fight with Chocolatito. They're not gonna feed him to him. He just burst onto the scene. He fell into their lap at Matchroom, and now he's a world champion. He's the youngest world champion. Not a lot of fans know him. I don't think Chocolatito would even take the fight, even if he has a belt. Chocolatito is in there for big names, big money. He told Claudio Trejos, who I just had on my show today, that he has only 2 more fights left. So if he fights Estrada next, and then he maybe goes for one of these big guys, whether it's Ioka, I think Ioka in Japan would be a little more reasonable.
That'd be fun, and that'd be
great fun.
Just get that Japan money. They got so much money there. They flock to That's a reason why Golovkin is fighting. Murata. He's fighting him because he's going to make like $20 million.
And Chocolatito's already got a connection. Chocolatito's already got a connection to Japan, so that makes it even easier.
Yeah, he wears the Tekken on his.
I think his promoter. I think his promoter's Japanese. His manager.
Yeah. One of those, he should do it. I mean, I'm all for it. In a way, probably too much, but I mean, I'll be excited if the fight's made, and a ton of people will watch, and he'll make a lot of money. But I mean, he'll be an underdog in that fight.
Bueno, le preguntaba a Dan si, hablando del Chocolatito González, si él pensaba que ya era demasiado pedirle al Chocolatito coronarse en una quinta división, la 118, y él dice que sí. En efecto, peleadores como Naoya Inoue, Yoriel Casimero, Nonito Donaire son un poco más grandes que él, tienen mucho más tamaño, y al final del día tú puedes tener todo el talento que quieras, pero el tamaño ya es algo que manda, ¿no? Y es difícil. Él sí considera como que ya es mucho, no querés que el Chocolatito dé ese paso eventual a las 118 libras. Luis?
Dan, I'm just we'll do one more question each, and then we'll let you go. It's been a real pleasure. Like, we don't get to talk to people about boxing like this every day, so it's pretty exciting for us.
I'm having a blast.
I was telling you, I live in Nicaragua, right? Our show is mainly based in Panama, but I'm originally from Mexico. I was born in Mexico. My parents are Mexican. I'm Mexican. So I wanted to ask you a question about Mexican boxing. I personally believe Canelo Alvarez has done enough to be the best Mexican fighter ever. I respect Julio César Chávez a lot. I think he's a legend. I think what he did kind of did set up, the path so that these guys could come and do it.
Yeah.
But I do believe Canelo Alvarez has done enough to be the best Mexican ever. Would you agree with that, or would you still want to see him finish his career?
So I didn't get to see Chavez senior fight. I just know secondhand. But I've been able to watch all of Canelo's career, and I mean, just him being in the same sentence is a win. Him being in the same breath is a win, and that just says enough for me. I like to leave that to the Mexicans, the Mexican fans, the Mexican, like, that's their thing. Like, that means a whole nother ball game. That's how they feel. Boxing is so important to Mexico. They're Mexican fans are the life, and Mexican fighters are the lifeblood of boxing. They make the sport go around. So I don't really get involved in that discussion. But I'll just say this: the fact that Canelo is in the discussion alone just says enough right there.
Okay, le preguntaba a Dan si él consideraba que el Canelo Álvarez ya había hecho lo suficiente como para ser considerado el mejor mexicano libra por libra. Dan nos comenta que él no vio pelear a Julio César Chávez, ya porque Dan es un tipo joven como nosotros. I'm saying that you're a young guy like us. No le tocó ver a Julio César Chávez, al Canelo sí, y nos comenta que ya el simple hecho de que hablemos del Canelo Álvarez en la misma oración o en las mismas palabras que Julio César Chávez ya es una ganancia para el Canelo Álvarez, y que más que nada él deja que los mexicanos sean los que deciden quién de los dos es el mejor de la historia.
Hablando del Canelo, Dan, tema complicado acá siempre el Canelo.
Canelo is always an interesting topic.
Yeah. When you want to get some views, you talk about Canelo.
Of course, yeah.
True. ¿Tú piensas, Dan, que Dimitri Bivol o Bivol es el rival más difícil de Canelo desde Golovkin? Dan, do you think Dimitri Bivol is the toughest opponent for Canelo since Triple G?
Yes, I do. I believe that. He's a legitimate 175-pounder. This isn't an old Kovalev who was battling a lot of things, you know, alcohol and just was old. This is a legit test. This is a guy that's big. He hits hard. He's tricky. He has a good jab. He has a good movement. I think this is a really tough fight for Canelo.
Will you consider it to say like 50-50 fight? Or
No, I would say like I give people a slight chance, maybe 40, 35%.
Got it. Básicamente, Dan nos dice que definitivamente desde Golovkin él cree que el reto del Canelo más difícil va a ser Bivol, porque no es Kovalev, que cuando Canelo subió a 175 enfrentó a un Kovalev ya viejo, que ya tenía problemas legales. Este es un Bivol en su prime y que definitivamente le puede costar o hacer algo importante. Tiene una ligera posibilidad de poder ganarle al Canelo. Él diría que un 35% de posibilidades tiene Dimitri Bivol.
Ok, excelente. Well, Dan, agradecerle a Dan su tiempo por dar su tiempo muy valioso para estar aquí con Nación Boxeo. La verdad que ha sido un placer para Miguel, para mí. Esperemos que pronto lo podamos tener por aquí de nuevo. Dan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for giving us some of your valuable time. I'm sure our viewers are going to really enjoy this conversation we had about boxing. I really had a fun time. So you can say goodbye to our audience. Anything?
Thank you, everyone, for having me. Continue to keep watching the sport, keep supporting the sport. Great job, man. I've never done an interview like this where we got translating. That's really impressive what you guys did to be able to. I do interviews, so when I'm listening to what my guest is saying, but I'm also thinking about my next question. So you guys had to think about what I was saying, translate it, ask the next question. That's really, really hard. You guys are very talented. Keep it up, and you know, just like I said, just stick with it every single week. Be passionate about it. We love this sport. It's easy to be passionate about boxing because I think it's the best sport in the world. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate it.
See ya.